The sunlight that day was a lie. It poured over a garden I had planted, now just a stage for a cruel performance. My son Julian knelt, not before me, but before his wife's mother. He slid an extravagant diamond ring onto her finger. "For the woman who gave me the perfect wife," he said. The table erupted in applause. "And me? The woman who sold her own wedding ring to put him through school?" My daughter-in-law, Chloe, handed me a cheap, porcelain thimble. The words "World's Best Mom" were stamped crookedly on the side. She smirked. "For the woman who has everything, or had." The laughter was sharp, a blade waiting to see if I would bleed. I smiled. I smiled to hide the sound of my own heart breaking. And under the table, I opened my device and canceled every single automated payment to his account. They had given me humiliation. I would give them a lesson in consequence. My name is Eleanor. I am 70 years old. I built my life and my fashion company with these two hands. I started with a single sewing machine, stitching late into the night to pay the bills. Every sacrifice was for Julian. I bought him the sprawling home where that party was held. I funded his failed business ventures, his luxury vehicle, his lavish vacations. Each time he promised to pay me back. And each time, I believed him, because a mother's hope is a stubborn thing. But that porcelain thimble was a price tag. In their eyes, a lifetime of my love was worth less than spare change. That night, in my quiet apartment, I held the thimble next to a photo of Julian as a boy, wearing a shirt I'd sewn for him. "You loved me once, didn't you?" I whispered. Then the tears dried. I looked at my hands, scarred from years of needles and hard work, and I knew. Crying wouldn't buy back respect. But action would. The next morning, a strange calm settled over me. The grief had burned away, leaving only clear, cold purpose. I began what I called the Thimble Plan. My first stop was the bank. I sat across from a manager who had known me for years. "Cancel all his authorized cards," I said. "And every transfer." With a few signatures, I severed the financial umbilical cord. It felt like taking a first, deep breath after years of suffocation. Next, I met with my attorney, a sharp, steadfast woman named Margaret. "I'm rewriting my will," I told her. I created the Legacy of Dignity Fund, for older women cast aside by their families. For Julian to inherit a single cent, he would have to meet strict conditions. Hold a steady job for a year, maintain a clean financial record, and prove he could contribute to his community. Then I went to my company. I revoked his access to corporate accounts. We reviewed the statements, a sea of numbers that told a story of entitlement. A fortune, spent on a life of illusion. I drafted a lease for my house that he lived in. The days of a free ride were over. I compiled everything into a single blue binder. On the cover, I wrote a single word, thimble. I called Julian to my office. He arrived, expecting to discuss a new investment. He did not expect the blue binder on the table. I placed the porcelain thimble between us. It looked so small, so fragile. "I have one question for you, Julian," I said, my voice steady as stone. "After everything I have given, am I only worth this?" I opened the binder. I showed him the totals. The substantial investment for a failed startup. The fortune spent on a luxury vehicle. The tropical vacation he took while I was in the hospital. A small fortune gone. He began to make excuses. "Mom, Chloe is pregnant. We have responsibilities." "Responsibility doesn't start in my wallet, Julian," I replied. "It starts with your own two hands." I slid the lease and the new inheritance agreement toward him. "The bank of Mom is closed. Permanently." He stared at me shocked. "Do you still love me?" he whispered. "A mother's love never ends," I said. "But starting today, it no longer includes a blank check." As he left, I picked up the thimble. It was delicate, but it had not shattered. And neither had I. The following months were a storm of desperate calls and pleading texts. But I held firm. Every no was a brick in the foundation of my new life. I poured my energy into the Legacy of Dignity Fund, helping women like me find their power again. A year later, Julian asked to meet. He chose a simple cafe we used to go to. He was thinner, his hands slightly rougher. "I sold the fancy car," he said. "We moved to a small apartment. I'm working shifts at a warehouse. It's hard, but it's honest." He introduced me to my granddaughter. holding her tiny hand. I felt a thaw in my heart I thought was permanent. "Mom," he said, his eyes clear for the first time in a decade. "I'm sorry. Not for the money, but for making you feel worthless." This Mother's Day he gave me a simple silver chain. No grand stone, just honest metal. It was the most valuable gift he'd ever given me, because it was paid for with the truth. The porcelain thimble now sits on my shelf. It is no longer a symbol of insult, but of my awakening. I learned that the strongest act of love is sometimes not to give, but to stop giving. To teach the value of standing on your own 2 feet. If you've ever felt taken for granted, I hope my story gives you strength. Your worth isn't measured by what you give away, but by the respect you require. It's never, ever too late to reclaim your power and write a new ending.